Good evening, everybody. Welcome to It's Mariner of Spirit. And that intro was from my other show. For some reason, I have no idea why it popped up, but I'll find out later on. I apologize for that. This is Mariner of Spirit. This is this Friday night show at 9 o'clock, and it's done basically interviews with personalities in the paranormal, people in the paranormal that I've met, and the people that I've always wanted to. And I've been doing this show for quite some time. And thanks to Supernatural Inc. Entertainment for carrying the weight of me on their shoulders. I appreciate it. So we got a great guest tonight, but before we start, I have a few things that I want to mention. Basically, the people that I support, number one, and the first one is PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer. It's Chris Goskowski and Alex Wilkinson from down in Florida. And they do events, basically all fundraisers. They do haunted houses, and they'll sell tickets and things like that and they'll take all the money. It goes towards cancer research. Number two is Potographs, and usually it doesn't make any difference. They're the same. Potographs is a great fundraiser type of program that was set up by Tim Miley, and it's Tim Miley and his wife Lauren. And they're from up in Wisconsin, and they do fundraisers every year where they'll go ahead and they'll have book locations. The one that's going to be going on shortly, I don't think it's this week, maybe a weekend from now, it's up in Houghton Lake, Michigan. And I've really been tempted, but I've been a little bit busy, so I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. They're great people. Tim's been doing this for quite a few years. He always has a list of guests, just like a big Paracon, only he'll have like 4 main speakers, and it's usually at a haunted location. I've seen him at Ashmore Estates with Robin Terry's place, and I was sort of blown away because it was really, really a great event. So if you get the opportunity, be sure to go ahead and look up Tim and his event and see where the other ones are this year. And if you get the opportunity to go to it, that would be great. I don't know why my phone's going off. I got to hit the buzzer. Everybody's worried about the storms. So the only other thing that I usually mention, and that's the authors, and these are the authors of people that have been on the show. And it's Bruce Holliday, Tobias Wayland, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Rosemary Barnaby Jones, Cheryl Lynn Cotter, Dr. Heatherly Langdon, Lynn Monet, Ron Iacovetti, Victoria Monday, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, David Sloan, Christina Bloom, D.A. Wysong, Joseph Hallant, and Rex. I think I said Rex Nielsen. Yes, I did. Okay. So that's it. So without further ado, my guest is Mr. Tim Shaw, and he's a great guy. I've been wanting to have him on for quite a few years. I'm going to bring him in now. Tim, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you on.
Thank you. You know what, Greg? It's such an honor to be on your show. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, you either do one or two things when you really make it. Number one, you get invited to all these crazy parties and all these investigation stuff. And number two, you get interviewed by Greg Kos. And that's when you know that you've made it. So I've made it, baby.
You know what? I don't need a fat head. But, in essence, thank you very much. I just go on what I do, and I love to do it, and I've been doing it for quite some time now. So
I've been doing this. I'm trying to think. It's close to 25 years now, and we started in the old Para X network, and we just keep plugging along. And you know what? I don't care if people call guys like us fossils, but you know what? It's so much fun to be able to do this. And I think we talked a little bit before we got on the air about all the great people that we've met over the years. And just think about this, Greg. How could we have gone and possibly ever have met these people that were so influential, in the paranormal and the metaphysical communities, if we had never have gone and had our vodcasts and podcasts and gone out there and shook hands and kissed babies? I mean, that's what I always say. That's my blessing. I've met some of the greatest people in the world.
Yeah, they're they're really amazing. I haven't had anyone ever, come on the show with like the expression that I used before, a fat head.
I have.
Oh, you have?
Oh, we won't mention who, but I've had a couple over the years. Well, basically, you know what? When we were with CBS Radio, we were on terrestrial radio in 5 major markets. That's when you had more of a people that were really thought highly of themselves because they were selling themselves trying to get on TV shows. But for the most part, like what we do, and for the authors and all the great people that are really out there in the trenches, everyone is just a great, nice person. And whether or not they were on a TV, most of whether or not they were on a TV show or not, doesn't matter. We're all equal right across the board. And I think that's what's so great about it. And you mentioned Tim Malley. Tim Malley's a great person, and what he does is just phenomenal. And so it's so great that I was so happy that you mentioned him.
Yeah, I have 3 actually, but the other one, he's been a little sick, and that's Howard Petrie.
Yeah.
And Howard is, he's had a bad streak lately with family members and in business and everything else. So, and he heads the old channel. I can't think of it right now, but it's Parallax now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But him and it's Emmy McKenzie are the ones that are pretty much running it. And we still haven't had a show. We had a show about 2.5 months ago, and then Emmy got involved in a bunch of other personal matters and took her out of the way, and so we haven't had another show there. But I'm here to talk about you. I want answers, and you know what? When we started talking about shows, you've had shows, like you said, for how many years? 25.
Almost, I'd say almost 25 years. Yeah.
Okay. So out of all those shows that you've had, why don't you name them off so everybody.
Well, basically my show started as the Black Cat Lounge. We were doing only audio on Para X. And then we got picked up, which was amazing. We got picked up by CBS Sky Radio for terrestrial. And with that, we did something called The Psychics Next Door. It was a 2-hour show, and we did interview, and then we did, psychic readings and stuff. And we did that for a number of years. One of these days, I'm going to have to go and I'll have to listen to some of those shows. They're going to be kind of scary. But while we were doing that, I was still doing the Black Cat Lounge. And I did that right up until, I'm trying to think, probably just before COVID, probably a year before COVID hit. And I took a back seat. My mom was sick and she had passed. So I had taken care of, we had to take care of my mom and all that.
Sorry.
But while we were doing it, a friend of mine and I, just to get our brains, kind of going, we did a show called Curiosity, and we did a radio show, Curiosity, and we did an internet show, Curiosity on the Road. And that was a lot of fun. And I got a chance to go and it, you know what, Greg, I am so fascinated by videography and how things are put together. And, I had done some, shows, Ghost Lab, Ghost Hunters, Paranormal Lockdown, a bunch of them. And I had done a couple pilots, and I absolutely loved watching how things were put together. So that was my introduction into kind of producing. And so I got a chance to learn the trade by hands-on. Then COVID came back, hit us hard. And I had just gone and I had retired. I took an early retirement. I took an early retirement after 34 and a half years, Greg. I took an early retirement. And I had taken classes in videography and audiography, in audio work and studio work and that. And so I did volunteer work up at a little place called Lockport Cable TV. And we I produced and directed and learned floor management of not-for-profits, which I absolutely loved. And when COVID came back, you know what? I resurrected the Black Cat Lounge because I missed it. I remember it was just a lot of fun. So we just started. There was like 5 of us that kind of, we were all podcasters, or we all had, radio shows and stuff. And we decided that, let's bring it back, because a lot of people, we were all stuck in the house, and, everybody was really, kind of jonesing to get out and do stuff. And I said, let's just have fun. And out of the 5 shows, 2 of us are still going strong right now. But it's great. We've had such a great time, and I got a chance to work with so many great people. I mean, Nick Groff is a friend of mine, and I actually met him. We were talking about the old Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan Paracon. I actually met him up there, and then he remembered me and brought me on to Paranormal Lockdown. And then I had worked with Kat Weidman for a couple of, years before. And from there, we went to when she started doing Portals to Hell. So she brought me on to Portals to Hell with Jack Osborne. And it's just so much fun. And I'm just trying to think what other shows. Jason Hawes, Most Terrifying Places, More Terrifying Places. I can't even remember them all, I think it was like 13 or 16 different, reality TV shows that I've been on. And every one of them has been a learning sensation. For me, it's been a sensation. I got a chance to really, I absolutely love doing it. And the other nice thing with what I do, Greg, is they used to bring me on as either a witness. I like when I do that, my air quotes, my witness, or I did psychic walkthroughs. And both of those are great, because if you're a witness, you're only filmed for, I think, maybe 2 hours, hour to 2 hours, and then they pick and choose your 20-minute bit, and then they kind of get that down to like between 6 and 12 minutes. But for the psychic walkthroughs, those were great, because I got a chance to go all over the place while everybody else was working so hard. I got picked up, taken to the location, worked about 4 to 6 hours. That was it. Had lunch with the cast and crew. They took me back to the hotel, and I was either on an airplane or in the car on my way home. And it was great. It was great. And then I worked with Steve Shippey on a lot of his stuff, Shock Docs and Haunted Saginaw, his series. He's got a great long series of regional content. So it was just a lot of fun. And, again, the people that I've met along the way are just phenomenal, And whoever thought that some kid from Western New York was going to be able to hang out with these people. Hang out with these people. So yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
So Western New York.
Yeah.
That's not over by Chautauqua. That's east, isn't it?
Chautauqua is roughly southeast from where I am. I'm actually closer to the Canadian border. I probably about 25 minutes from the Peace Bridge, the main one of the main arteries going into Canada. So that crosses the Niagara River. Chautauqua is roughly about, I'm just trying to think, about 45 minutes drive from here.
I did not mention at the beginning too on the introduction. I should have mentioned it then about the fact that you are a psychic medium, and
Maybe
and
an
also,
extra large. I don't know. I haven't checked. I haven't checked in a while.
Well, that's the way I talk about it too myself. But I'm not there. I worked with Scotty Rourke for a year and a half.
Oh, Scotty's a great guy. Scotty, all of us started at Para X way back in the day. And we had a thing, we had a power block on Mondays. And I was a lead in. And then Marla Brooks had her Stirring the Cauldron show. And then Scotty had a 1 or 2 hour show at the end. And it was great. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I learned so much about radio and podcasting from him.
Yeah, he's like a mentor to me as far as my spirituality is concerned.
And it's kind of funny. He always says, I was one of the guys that like pushed him into doing what he does. And it's hysterical. It was reciprocal between us. It really was. And I haven't seen him in a while, but I'm just, I'm thrilled at how far he's gone.
Yeah, I see him every Monday night. I run a group for him for Psychics Unite. And it's a group for the people that can't get over to Madison, Wisconsin to do the big meeting. So, and I've been doing that, I don't know, maybe 2 years now.
Good for you.
And it's just another way of giving back, especially to him because he's done so much for me.
Well, the bottom line of anything that we do, I was a member of the National Spiritual Association of Churches for the longest time. And bottom line with what we do is to be of service to people on this side of the veil or this on the other side of the veil. And a lot of times what we do is I do fun. I like to do fundraising and I like to preservation work and that sort of stuff. And, that's all fun and games. But then there's some serious things that you have to work with. And that's where like being, working within the mediumship field, you're trying to give back and trying to help people in that aspect. So sometimes it's like a seesaw, but it's a great seesaw, man. It's a great trip.
Yeah, it's something else. When I mentioned your author works, how many books do you have?
4, 5. I'm working on my 6th right now. I've got they're mostly regionals, and what I'm working on now is it's tentatively called Stories I Tell My Friends, because in regionals I can only really kind of put into those books stuff locally, but Story I Tell My Friends are a bunch of experiences and investigations and fun stuff that I find fascinating from everywhere I've been. Waverly Tuberculosis Hospital, Madison, being able to go out there to Mansfield Reformatory, which we're going to be in May. We're going to be there.
Are you going to go there?
Oh yeah, I think I'm doing a gallery reading at the very end of the event. And I love doing that. It's just a lot of fun to be able to do stuff like that. But and then like the experiences I've had at different Civil War sites, that I've either camped out at or done different, different demonstrations and that sort of stuff. There's so much out there. And I never get a chance to be able to write about it or tell people about it. It's like even the Fox Cottage. I get a chance to get out there in Hydesville, New York, and where spiritualism actually started, modern spiritualism. And so I get a chance to go and write about that. And then there's all sorts of great locations, when it comes to, just places that I think are fascinating in Cleveland, and be able to just to hang out and be able to share these with everybody. So that's going to be, that's a real big, I am just like so excited about that. And the other thing is I've got an article just published in Erie Explorations magazine out of Las Vegas. That was just the latest issue about the Buckland Museum in Cleveland, Ohio. And I knew the late Raymond Buckland, and it's so great to be able to go and go visit my friend Stephen Intermol out there, and be able to go and just see, the Buckland collection, and just remember, a lot of remembrances about the man himself. So there's so much, so I'm busy. What can I tell you, Greg? Hey, like we always say, retirement isn't for everybody. Someday I'm going to retire. I don't know when, but I will.
I started out with Dale Kazmarek.
Oh, Dale, yeah.
So, and I was there for, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years, and then I left, and came up back home rather than the south side of Chicago, because I live up by the Wisconsin border.
Right.
So I looked at it a little differently than, it was a great learning experience. The locations that we went to are all over the place. I mean, I've been to places that a lot of people haven't been, not that Post-Town Elementary or Mansfield or anything really particular, great. But, to me, they were awesome locations. And what took me from there was a sort of a way of looking at things, because I already knew Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea it was only a matter of time. But one night we had an event, and he was working with a group that I was with at the time. And we talked a little bit, and we had been at every location we went to, we would talk. But he just said to me one night, he just went ahead and said, well, maybe you ought to go ahead and look into it. And I just went ahead and said, well, that's great. I need a mentor. How about you? And he looked at me, and he had a big smile on his face, and he says, you're almost psychic.
I like that. You're almost psychic.
Yeah.
You know what? I started in 72. I was a kid, and I had taken classes, and I had gone to Spiritualist Lyceum, which is a Sunday school. And, for me, it's like a second nature. That it's not even anything, I don't even think about it. And what is so neat about the whole thing is that the one thing I can tell everybody is that everybody's got it, and it's just a matter of muscle memory. I took classes with, I always hate to say about the people I've taken classes with, I have to say the late, but because half of these people are dead, but the late Tom Brown Jr.
Wow. And
he was, he was an American mystic, and he was a shaman, basically, and he was a world-class outdoorsman and tracker and survivalist. And what he explained to me one day, and I took classes with him up at the Rhinebeck campus of the Omega Institute. And what he told me is everybody's got it, it's just a matter of muscle memory. Because when you were in that nomadic stage, you had to be able to find out where the water sources were, and herds were, and where there was safety, and where there may be warring other tribes, and all that. You needed that little up, that little push. And when you looked into ponds, and you're looking into almost into a like a situation where you might be almost scrying into water, like water scrying, you're kind of becoming in touch with the ancestors. And he said to me, he goes, everybody's got it. It's just the fact that if you want to awaken it, wake it up. And as an instructor, I can tell you that everybody has it, but they have it in different capacities. So, as an instructor, I have to kind of figure out what these people, what students, what they're good at, and how kind of push them into the right direction. It could be clairaudient, could be, clairsentient. I mean, there's so many, there's so many different avenues that they could take. So, but everybody's got it in one way or another, whether they dream or they have visions, or or they're good at just pulling cards and being able to read cards, and read between the lines. So yeah, we all got it. It's just the fact that we have to go and we have to wake it up a little bit.
You a reenactment person?
Oh yeah, I did that for years. I did Civil War, American Civil War as you can probably tell behind me.
That's what went ahead and clicked on me about what I had written down.
Yeah, this is all. This is. I have 2 collections. This is my office. This is my American Civil War collection. Here is all in this area, and then on the other side of the camera is all my unusual and haunted stuff. But yeah, I had a couple relatives that fought in the American Civil War, and I've visited every single battlefield that he fought on. And I used to do like the hardcore time trips where we would actually, like, for the 130th anniversary of Gettysburg, about 30 some years ago, we marched in 25 miles from Frederick, Maryland, following the Third Corps march, which he did. And it's like, it's great to be able to go and touch into history. And then I was also I was a docent and volunteer up at old Fort Niagara in Youngstown, New York. And I was an artisan there where I worked with leather work and did repair work and worked there for the longest time, or volunteered there for the longest time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's a time trip. And I think a lot of people without getting into reincarnation or anything, but a lot of people actually go and kind of can fit into a different time period, and they feel more comfortable in that time period rather than in our own time period. And that's actually what happened to me.
Are you able to, when you mentioned leather work,
mm-hmm.
do you actually do new things, or do you bring back some of the old things?
I do. Well, I don't do it anymore. My hands are pretty arthritic now, but what my specialty was I recreated the leather work from the French and Indian War through the Civil War. As a matter of fact, some of my pieces ended up in Pirates of the Caribbean, believe it or not. I did some work for them. But neat. I went up to Nova Scotia, to Fortress Louisbourg, and was able to go and examine actual pieces coming out of the mud pits, the archaeological mud pits, and these leather pieces that were preserved in this mud. And I was able to examine them and sketch them out and photograph them, and then I could reproduce them. As a matter of fact, I think I was such a pain in the rear end to the archaeologists at the Mary Rose Museum in England. The Mary Rose was King Henry VIII's warship that sank. And they have this fabulous museum there, and they have all this leather work and everything. I was emailing him constantly, and he finally said, "Give me your address." And he sent me all these line drawings for all this leather work that they did. And then I was able to go and reproduce that. So yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved my dad was a leather worker, but he was a carver. He did beautiful carvings. It's just amazing. He was just a true artist with it. But I never had that. Unfortunately, I never had that skill. But I was able to understand historic leather working, cordwainers, and I was able to go and look at a piece, and I could draw it out and then figure out how to go and mold it, molding different leather works and different pouches and everything, and be able to go and put it all together.
Did you do holsters too?
I've never done holsters. My dad did holsters. My dad did a lot of holsters. I've done primarily reproduction work for French and Indian, colonial, and Civil War.
Did you know who Blackfoot was? It wasn't Blackfoot. What's his name? The Indian chief that was He fought with he learned from the French, the British, and then us.
There were so many.
The tribe was out west here.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything. I wouldn't know anything on the other side of Huron. I primarily specialized in everything on this side, east of it.
I can't. It doesn't make any difference. But the part that when you brought up the fact of that metal of the leather working itself, that it's in its own right stands by itself as far as what a normal person would have done in his lifetime. And
Yeah.
it's just an asset to what you've been able to accomplish with everything else. It's amazing.
I think within like your own, I don't know. I don't want to say DNA, but I go and that I was brought up into it, but my father did something totally different. He did a lot of the Western style work and purses and walls and that sort of thing. And I was never interested in that. And to me, it was always the historic recreation was always so interesting to me. And it almost became like the minute my father did saddle stitch, and after that, I was able to create everything just by looking at it, conceptualizing it, and such. And it was like almost relearning a skill that you had. That's how natural it was. And again, I mean, people would pay me to go and make hand-stitched pieces, and they did not want like anything that was commercially at work. And and then when it like I would do leather for people, and they would take these items and they would have other artisans for it or work for it. So so they would decorate pieces. A lot of fun, but I think a lot of it was innate within me. It was already something that was sitting in there, and it just came out. It's almost like what how I developed as a medium. Yes, I take classes. I started. It was always there, and it was just always so natural. I never was afraid of it. A lot of people freak out about it, but never was afraid of it. I was Roman Catholic, and was still going to St. Andrew's Parochial School, Lilydale Spiritualist Camp, to visit relatives, and that's where I was exposed to it, and that's what did
the Catholics have to say about that?
Well, I got in a little.
Yeah, I did too.
I had a little bit. I had a little bit. I did an essay, and what we did on our summer vacation, and it's a true story. 8th grade, Sister Sidonia, God rest her soul. Nice lady, So I write this letter or this essay, right, Greg? And what you did. So I mean, I'm writing about this going. Everybody's writing about going swimming, playing ball, and everything, and I'm writing about going to children's seances. I heard from a great grandfather who that came through, went to a healing class, meditation, all this. There was like 48 or 49 kids in my class. I was one of those, in the boomer time. I always remember everybody got their essays back with it, and I got a envelope. Mrs. Shaw, we need the cards. And we had my father worked second shift, so he was not really happy about having to take a night off to go talk to this nun. And my father wasn't Catholic, my mother was, and I always remember my father saying, she said what she said, and my father said, just watch it, because that's my religion. You don't say anything about my religion. Your religion is the only religion in town. And then she backed off, and she, well, just tell Tim not to be like talking about it, in class and stuff. Well, my father is like hit me in the back of the head. He goes, just shut up. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But he said, next day I started telling everybody about You know, and that was the entire 8th grade, you know, because the school back then only went up to, you know, the grammar schools only went up to 8th grade. So I went and I told everybody about it, you know, and just continued from there. But yeah, that was always interesting.
Excuse me. Did you have to meet her in the convent?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I was pulled in there a couple times with my father into the convent because the nuns told Chester, who was my father, that she wanted to talk to Chester because he was a very devout Catholic, as my mother was. But I was the black sheep. Okay, I was the oldest. I was the most rebellious one in the family. There were 4 of us. And I was the one that, you know, ended up leaving college, going to Vietnam and everything else, you know. But the funny part of it is I have a distinct memory of walking through the doors and going into the convent. And I can remember they closed the door behind it and the sister's there. And she says, we're going to go into the parlor to talk. And I says, when are you going to turn the lights on? Because the only really symbol that was lit up was the crucifix.
Right.
And, you know, that had happened more to me that's embedded in my skull. From that point, my mother had polio and was taken away from us when I was like 2.5. So I'd have to go down to the hospital as I was growing up with my father and my grandmother. And we'd have to go down into Chicago. And we'd go into these hospitals where she was in an iron lung and she had been in there for a long, long time. And in the hallway, just the same, it was like crazy. On this wall, with the only light that was there was on a crucifix. And it was just like freaked me out.
Well, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, we're children of a certain age. And that's just the way things were back then.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just the way they were. But
some kids today would have just bolted for the front door, screaming and yelling and flying out.
I don't want to say we were built tougher. I think the fact was it was like if we bolted, we would have got beaten. So
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
we don't. That's why we didn't. That's why we were all
far.
Yeah, we always used to try to never go and rock a boat. You know.
So this coming year, what are your plans? I mean, are you working any paracons or?
I'm going to be, like I said, this year I am taking a little bit of a lighter breather. A lighter breather, I should say. That's not great English. That's, you know, but I'm an author, so I can make up my own words. So I'm heading to the Mansfield Reformatory for psychometron or whatever. I can never say it. I can never say the proper word for it, the name of it.
I think it's
but that's
close.
like 15th through 17th. But what I'm really, and I've got a bunch of like little things. I'm doing a lot of library stuff and I'm doing some small shops, but I'm planning on following a lot of the route of the original Erie Canal, and along the route, getting a hold of local historians to let them tell me about interesting people, unusual people, and ghost stories. So I'm going to do that from Buffalo all the way to Albany. Maybe I think it's Medina where it starts. And along with that, I am going back to Palmyra, New York, the birthplace of the Mormon religion, Joseph Smith. And I'm going to go and I'm writing a chapter about the Phelps Hotel, or the Phelps General Store, which closed in the 1930s, like 1939, and they just shut the place up. And there's like eggs still there from the 30s. It's amazing. It's an amazing time capsule. I think it's about 90% of the There's 2 floors above it that are apartments. I believe that's like 90% of it is all original. A spiritualist by the name of Sybil Phelps was the last Phelps to live there. And last year we did a seance in their dining room, in this heavy dining room table. We actually got it to kind of flop back and forth, do a little table tipping. It was like during a seance, which was amazing. So I want to be able to go there and photograph it. And I have to do some interviews to kind of get all my information together. And then I am going to kind of slide. I'm going to slide in through September. I've got stuff in September also. So I'm taking it lighter, but I'm officiating Satori Hawes and Cody DeBane's wedding, Jason Hawes' daughter, in Massachusetts in October. I love the 2 of them. They are, you know what? I just love the 2 of them. And Jason, I've known Jason for a number of years, and it's just so nice to be able to go and see, how far they've gone. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people go and they poo-poo some of the stuff that they do, but I'm going to tell you what. We were at Mansfield last year, and I thought I was hearing like droplets, like rain droplets or water droplets coming somewhere. And you're in a big old building, you don't know where the hell it's coming from. I mean, the echo is weird stuff. The 2 of them do their stuff. They do their thing. And they go, can you tap like 3 times for yes or whatever? And you hear the thing go tink, 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 and then nothing. It was amazing what they did. And I love it. And of course, Cody is a oddities unique collector like I am. And so we have so much in common. So I always love to see them. I think they're just wonderful. And then what we try to do is last year, they're all during this, by the way. I'm a volunteer at Concordia Cemetery, which was an abandoned cemetery in Buffalo, New York. And what I like to do is I go out there and we recover old tombstones that have fallen and have been buried. And we hit it with ground penetrating radar, and then we get crews come out there and we look for them, and we're able to go and resurrect them. It sort of gives back the person who's buried there, it's their name. And there's like 17,000 people buried in this cemetery. And so we've got like a lifetime of work ahead of us. And right around October, friends of mine belong to a dance group called Bewitched. They're like they dress up as witches and they go all over the place. And they dance and they raise money and they raise awareness of different charities. And I think they're wonderful. And their counterpart, Nickel City Fear, do the same thing, except they're all guys. And a good friend, Tony, who runs it, he raises money and food for needy families and pantries. And last year, I sponsored an event at a haunted location. I invited some people there, and we presented him with, I think, about $400 to $500 worth of canned goods. And, I had a pizza party for everybody, and everybody came in. It was like a thank you for everybody that had contributed and had worked so hard. So, I mean, a lot of what we do is, a lot of people, what they don't get about the paranormal is that, it's so much fun to get out there and do this work and have so much fun. But I think there should be a higher cause. And I mean, maybe it's my real, the religious background coming out of me, but it's just the fact that, it doesn't hurt to be, it's like Timmy Malley, I mean, he works so hard for the animal rescues. You find a rescue, or you find a cause, you find something that you really like to do. Somebody asked me, Tim, you're always talking about charity work and stuff. I can't find anything. Well, yeah, you can find something to do with charity. Everybody needs volunteers. You don't have to work in a soup kitchen. I'm not that type of person. I don't think I could work in a soup kitchen, but I mean, you can do other things, and you can go, and again, you can raise money. You can, if there's a little old lady down the street that needs her, that needs her walk shoveled, go and do it. That's the whole idea. And coming up as a kid that was influenced heavily with spiritualism, I go and I firmly believe that we should be giving back. And a lot of people go, oh, well, you make all this money, you're doing all this stuff. Well, I'm not real. First of all, I'm not making a lot of money. Greg, you don't make a lot of money doing this stuff. Right. But you know what? The idea is that if you can go and you can give back so much, and I try to give back at least a little bit more than half of anything that I make during the year. I try to give that back. And put it in towards a charity or preservation or help somebody. That's what it's all about. I've been blessed. I work for a township here, and I got a state pension, Social Security, and investments and stuff. So I'm okay. My wife and I are okay. But there's so many people out there that really need help, and they genuinely need help. They're not the stereotypical type of people that that they think that they're out there collecting welfare and they're they're out there smoking meth and everything. There are truthfully people that are in need, especially in this day and age right now. So that's why I believe everybody should be giving a little bit back with what we're doing in this field.
So for the next rest of the show, I was looking at the last part that you had on here, and I apologize for not mentioning everything that you did in the beginning of the show. That's number one.
Believe me, you don't want to go and bore everybody with.
No, I'm not. No, but there's a point of them wanting to know who you really are, and those are important facets, especially the psychic mediumship and everything else that you've been doing. The author, we mentioned, you said 4 or 5 books. The part about your haunted or unusual objects. Mm-hmm. If you could just mention some of them.
Oh yeah, I got. You know what? It's funny because I had a local. I had a local guy from TV, and he was doing a bit on me, and so I had him come down here. And he goes to me, "How many Ouija boards do you have?" I said, at the time, I think it was about 83 or 85 Ouija boards.
85?
Yeah, somewhere around there. And people send them to me. People give them to me. You know what I do is I take the common ones and I take them to the different shows, and I have all the TV celebrities sign them, and then I give it to whoever wants to. Somebody had to raffle them off. Those are great super prizes. But I love Ouija boards. I collect Ouija boards. I've got some unique dolls. I have a 1940s voodoo doll from New Orleans. I have different haunted dolls that I've either taken out of locations or they were given to me. Bad luck coins. I have a Jack in the Box that this guy asked me to come and take out of his shop because he used to repair Jack in the Boxes, and this thing he only had one thing on his bench in his garage. He would hear like the little music coming out of it, and except the actual music, the apparatus for the music box wasn't in there. It's gone. So he had already scavenged it. So he's hearing it, So I had to go. So I've got some cool stuff like that. I've also got some things from pieces from like memorabilia. No, I shouldn't say memorabilia, but things from serial killers and murderers, and along with those, I've got wonderful African pieces from personal the Nakai. Or the nail effigies, where they would take a wooden effigy and they would go and have a spirit that lived in it, and then or whenever they wanted the spirit to do their bidding or do something, they would drive a nail into it, with a offering pack. I've got a few of those. I've got asylum pieces here. I've got quack medicine. I've got pieces from Bolston House. I got pieces of the tile where Aleister Crowley, the Black Magician, did a lot of stuff. And then later on, Jimmy Page, of course, lived there, and it burned. And I got pieces of a roofing tile after it burned. And now, of course, I think it's 7 years later, they've rebuilt it. Victorian. I've got Victorian mourning pieces. I've got seance pieces, and probably. And you'll remember these. Do you remember all the great games and stuff that were like occult orientated, Green Ghost, and all these card games and all this stuff? I've been collecting those. The Kreskin ESP games. I love those things. So I've got a pretty big collection of those too. So my basement, Greg, my basement is it's sort of like a little museum. People are like, I can't believe you have all this stuff stuffed in the basement. You know, I say, oh yeah, I got a few things here and there. You know?
What does the missus have to say about the basement like that?
She doesn't have a problem with it. She knows it's all. She loves it all. She loves it all. Everything. You know what? It's everything down here. Everybody. See, the problem is everybody thinks things are either good or bad. And with me, I love every piece I have. I respect it. I love every piece I have. I make sure it's all neutral. You know, I have different ways of doing things that, you know, before I bring it into the collection. But if you go and have a respect for it, you have a healthy respect for it, and you're not just doing a freak show. You know, a lot of people, you know, I don't mind showing my stuff off once in a while, or, you know, bringing things with me to events. But I mean, I'm not out here to, you know, try to use these things as, you know, to push my, you know, fame or whatever, you know, my, you know, further out there. I don't do that because I believe that they're individual things. And I believe that everything has a soul to it. Everything has life, whether it's a rock or a tree. And that's just the way that I treat the things that I have. And then I've got some cool pieces from, Lorraine Warren's, you know, that, I'd met her a few times, and, Raymond Buckland, and, I have this hodgepodge of everything imaginable down here. The only thing I don't have is taxidermy. That's the only thing I don't have down here, but I may start in the near future.
When you mentioned the wooden figures with the nail in them, I think the Newkirks had done a movie.
They had that one that they used to walk around with. Yeah,
I think it was called The Crone, maybe.
Probably. I don't know. Yeah, I think I've got seven of those. I got 7 of those Nakais.
Are any of them magical?
They're all magical. They just don't jump. I don't need them. I don't have to drive any kind of nails into them. Listen, Greg, I got enough friends that are Strega and all in the craft. So if I have a problem, I just call them. I don't have to go and use one of my articles to go, one of my collections to go and do anything.
Because my other question was going to be, with all those Ouija boards, are you familiar with Karen Dahlman?
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
Okay.
I love Karen. She's with the Talking Board Society, Calvin Von Crush and John Kozik and all that. Yeah, I think it's great. And you know what? I used to use a Ouija board with my mother. So that'll just give you an idea that, I have no fear of it whatsoever. I've got a handmade Ouija board here that's like over 4 feet long that, I'll bring out for, like, if we're doing a fundraiser or if I'm doing a class, and, how to conduct yourself and how to conduct Ouija boards safely, and working with them in the proper way and have the right respect for them. So I bring all that out, and then whenever Five Below has got a new Ouija board on the market, I go there and buy 5 of those and put them in the pile.
I have 2. And they've always been on the shelf. They've been on the shelf since I got them.
The earliest one I have, I have a lot of 1940s. But the earliest one I bought this year, it was 1913, wow. 1910, 1913. I have a 1919, 1920 made in full, the factory when I was down in Baltimore, Maryland. And the other ones, because I've got actual Ouijas, and then I've got ones from the 30s and 40s that were like knockoffs, the Cops and all those other ones that were made all over the place. So I just love them. I love the artwork on them. A lot of them are so classic. I think they're wonderful. And they get a pretty bad rap. So, and the big thing is Greg, with these boards, here's the way I always tell people: don't listen to everything it says. You know, you got free will. Don't listen. If you have an Uncle Joe, right? Uncle Joe dies. So he comes back through the Ouija board and says, "Hey, Tim, I want you to take all your money out of the bank. I want you to put it in this stock, all of it in this stock." Well, here's the thing. If Uncle Joe never worked for a living, lived over a liquor store in the east side of Buffalo, and, was a rum bum, don't do it. Don't do it. Chances are you're going to lose it. So, you have to be able to go, and you have to, kind of weigh it, and, historically, I mean, you've had a lot of people that just put 100% faith into it. And they don't understand that it's a lot of it is idiomotor response, where you're actually moving the stuff, and it's coming from, I don't know, either your own little personal antenna or your higher self. It's the same thing with pendulum work, same thing with dowsing rods, same thing with all these other things of these tools of divination. You have to understand, you have to take it all in sometimes we're working within the realm of belief, but you have to be able to go and use it with common sense. And that's what I always push in everybody's head. And quite frankly, I'm not a big angel or devil guy. I mean, in spiritual, my type of spiritualism, it's all energy. It's higher energy, lower energy. It's semantics, basically. We just don't call them angels and demons. But there's some nasty things out there, and these nasty little things can go and manipulate these, your boards or whatever, and you've got to be careful with it. So there's different ways, you're always, Raymond Buckland always taught me, you're in control of every spiritual endeavor that you are a part of. You're the one you're the one that can turn this thing off and turn this thing back on again. You're the one, but it's all a realm of belief. The whole idea is, the secret is you got to believe this stuff, 100%, that you do this, and you're in total control. That's where people fall in. That's where people have problems, because they don't believe that.
Tim, are you okay for another 10 minutes?
Sure, okay. Greg.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I normally go ahead and say, if anybody has any questions, to put them out there. The Indian chief was Blackhawk. And, I was a big Blackhawks fan forever. And
hockey, old time hockey, Blackhawks.
Yeah, you got that right.
Bobby Hull.
Well, what's really interesting, who Christopher Fleming is?
Yep, his dad was Reggie Fleming, and Reggie Fleming played on the Buffalo Sabres for a number of years. He was one of the big enforcers back in the 70s.
When he played for the Hawks, my dad was friends with Rudy Pillis.
Mm-hmm.
And this was 61. And I was playing peewee or youth hockey.
Yep.
And
you can tell we're all from the north here, because hockey is big.
I had the opportunity every Sunday morning when they were playing at home to go down to the Chicago Stadium and skate with them.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So I met all those guys from that year. So you got Reggie Fleming was one of them. So the first time I heard Christopher, and I went over to talk to him, and I went ahead and I says, "Man, I think I know your dad." And his dad had just passed.
Right.
And after he left hockey, he worked in a town like Rolling Meadows in the suburbs. And I worked at the post office there, and I'd go out to get a hot dog, and he was there getting a hot dog. He was like the, how could you say, the guy that worked the lobby at the bank,
mm-hmm.
Just to draw people in, because he was Reggie Fleming. And Chris has been an absolutely awesome guy with me. And, he's been really sick, and now he's recovering.
Yeah.
And,
he had leukemia. Yeah. I met him a number of years at one of the old Gettysburg Paracons, and I've run into him. We've run our paths have crossed several times. He's a good guy. Yeah,
he was just he was just on the other day and talked about, he just had another NDE. and it was when they went ahead to do another bone marrow sample.
Yeah.
His last one,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of went south.
Which they can. I know myself. Yes.
And it was crazy. But let's see. Let me see if I have anything here. Carol says, just like the crone, the unbinding was the name of that. It's all about intent.
100%. Everything. You know what? It's funny when you talk about intent. People make too much out of it. You know, my whole brand of spirituality is keep it simple, stupid. You know, that's what I can understand. And you know what? A lot of people put so much effort into ritual. And so for me, ritual is here. But what really is a ritual? What is ritual is nothing more than a stylized prayer. But what is a stylized prayer? Break that down. We're talking into intent. What is intent? It's a focused thought. And if you can have a focused intent, that's how you manifest. That's how you work with stuff. That's how a lot of people are like, I'll work with different little teams because I don't belong to a team. I have like some friends, we work together a little bit, but I don't really belong to anything. And everybody's like, well, Tim, how come, you're going to give us a blessing before? It's just like, why do we need a blessing? Well, we want to make sure we're protected. Okay. I said, well, this is the way we'll do it. I'll do something. But they'll watch me go into these places and I don't worry. I don't do anything special. I don't, but then I believe that I'm protected. Now, that's not saying that I don't get pushed, scratched. And about a year and a half ago, I got dropped right to the ground. I'm talking, man, that was great. I'm not going to lie. That was the first time I ever had that happen. But you know what? It's all part of what we do. It's all part of the game, and but when it comes to like bringing anything home, or no, I don't worry about that. I never have, just that I don't worry about it. And that's the same thing like when you asked about my wife, what does she think about the collection? She walks down there. Doesn't bother her in the least bit. She likes a lot of it. She thinks a lot of it's pretty, but it's like, no, she doesn't even think twice. I have friends that won't come down here, and it's also, Greg. The best thing is when I had somebody come down here to replace my furnace last year, and before he came down, I said, "Now let me just explain to you a little something, what you're gonna see." And he was actually a guy that loved horror movies, so he was like, "Oh, because I have, autographs from like Linda Blair, and I have autographs from all these other people, and I have horror, the thriller movie posters and stuff along with the collection." So he was like, "Wow, I have Carmen Reed signed was it Haunting in Connecticut, and that was the original mom, and that's up on the wall and stuff, So he was like, this is great. Oh my God. And then I'm thinking to myself, hey, gonna give me a little break on on my furnace.
Wow.
That didn't happen, but it was still it was still fun to talk movies with him.
Yeah, there's a couple new people that have been making a name for themselves, and one of them is Larry Eisler.
Yeah.
He's
I remember him. Yeah, he's been
videographer.
Around. Yeah, he's been around for a while. I remember him. Yeah.
He was with Dan Norville.
Right.
And he was the one, him and Dan Norville took us out west to where it was against the Black Hawk Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And the president, I think it was Jackson, had given ultimatum about the Indians and
the Black Hawk Wars.
Yeah, the Black Hawk Wars. So we were out there, and there's 30 guys that died in this battle. But the reason they died was because they had the low ground, and Black Hawk's guys were up in the hill. So, and the guy that was of the militia that was in charge of burying them was a lieutenant by the name of Abraham Lincoln.
Well, that's pretty neat.
And there's a statue of him, and it's the base is probably maybe 6 feet tall, and then he's up above, and he's got those boots that come up half hip up to your hips.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the coat, and they had those hats that hung down on the sides like, but he had his in his hand, and it was all scrunched up in this statue, and he was in charge of the burial detail. So
That's
you
neat.
know, it was something that, you know, I had a different look at what Abraham was all about.
There's always 3 sides to every story. You know how that is, Greg.
I understand. I go along with it. But I want to go ahead and say thank you very much for coming on tonight. I'm sure I missed 100 things. The way
Then you just have to have me on again. That's all, Greg.
Yeah, I will. I look forward to having you back. It would be another blast.
It's always fun. And you know what? What's nice, Greg, is we have a lot of like crossover stuff, you know, and it's always, and I think that's one of the big things that I have to say about paranormal investigators, that you can't be obsessed with investigating. You have to be able to go and be multifaceted, whether it's history, whether it's this, that, you know, you have to have that a little bit of a specialty off to the side along with what you're doing, because what's fun about it is that it makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
And you know, whether or not you're, you know, you don't have to be a medium to do anything, or you're psychic or whatever, but if you do know a little bit about history, if you go out there and you know about this or that, or you know, anything, that's what makes it exciting. And you have to keep this exciting. And I think that was the biggest problem that we had with a lot of the TV shows. It was cookie cutter, and they were so serious, and they were just they never showed what really went on, you know, because most of those teams were hysterical, and they were always fun to work with, but then they would always go and they, you know, the cameras were on, and then they would get, you know, that serious face, and they would, you know, just making sure that, you know, everything was like, well, if you need us, we'll be back. And it's like, no, they won't. You know, or in between takes, you're in hysterics because somebody tripped over equipment, you know, or you know, you hear a bang and everybody jumps and just about poops themselves, you know, and it's a crew member. The idea is you have to have fun with what you're doing. And if you're not having fun with what you're doing, it's not worth doing. That's when you start looking for something else. So everybody just find fun things to do within the hobby, within the field, and mix it all together, put it in a martini shaker and pour it out and enjoy it.
If you're gonna want to, I'll close it down, and then we'll close together.
You got it.
Okay. So I'll just take you off and myself, and we'll close the show. Say, well, good night to everybody, and thanks for being here. This next week, I think it might be Jenny Davis. We're going to wait and see, because she was having some health issues. So we'll try to work that out. But, you know, there's only a few people. Like, we're getting to be like, you know, the old soldiers. There's only a few of us left. So, you know, it's great to have Tim on the show. I'm sure that you guys enjoyed him, and I did immensely. And it was one of the best things I should have done this years ago when his name was on the list, and I just kept on getting shuffled around with people. So, you know how it goes. But
believe me, as a show host, I know exactly how it is, because I have people that I keep saying I want on the show, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I got to book all. You know, you always do that. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but you get there eventually.
We got it. Thank you very much, Tim, and everybody. You guys take it easy, and I'll be right back in a few minutes.
Join every Wednesday night, same time, same channel, to watch When Spirits Connect with your host, Greg Koss, provided by the Supernatural Inc. Entertainment Network. Thank you, and we'll see you next Wednesday.